It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of November 16th, 2001. We've got three movies to look at, and there's one big one that we're going to start off with. It's not only the biggest movie release of the weekend, but it's also kind of the big game changer for movies and blockbusters in general. I mean, this is the first real game-changing blockbuster of the 21st century, and that is, of course, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Or as they call it in the UK, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. But yeah, that was the trailer that premiered in March of 2001 and was partially the reason why C-Spot Run did so well, because people saw that trailer and probably walked out after that. But this is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the first movie of the Harry Potter series based off the series of books by J.K. Rowling. You know, back when we liked Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, and now it's not like now where we pretty much are tired of Harry Potter. We're especially tired of J.K. Rowling, but I digress. Basic plot of this movie, it's the first year of Harry Potter's time at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Mystery, where he discovers that he is a famous wizard and begins his formal wizarding education. Now, this film went through some interesting little... Warner Brothers bought the film rights to this back in 1999, back when the series kind of started to begin its popularity overall, and there were a number of different directors they were looking at. They were looking at people like Steven Spielberg was on the short list for this, so was Rob Reiner. Let me see if I can find some of the other ones here that they were looking at. They were also looking at maybe... here we go. Terry Gilliam, which would have been very interesting. Mike Newell, who would actually later direct The Goblet of Fire. Alan Parker, Wolfgang Peterson. Ivan Reitman probably would have been an interesting choice. Tim Robbins was going to direct it, was one of the directors in mind. Brad Silberling, who did Casper. M. Night Shyamalan, who had just come off The Sixth Sense. Peter Weir. They eventually decided to go with Chris Columbus, mostly because of his success throughout the course of the 90s. I mean, this is the guy that directed the Home Alone movies, Mrs. Doubtfire. And he was given the task to make, essentially, a kid's adventure film. And people forget that the Harry Potter series did start off as a kid's adventure film. And a kid's adventure series, per se, because... Of course, these kids grow. Of course, these are kids when the books start, and then when the series moves forward, they become adults, and that's why there was actually a lot of concern about Columbus doing this, because they didn't like the fact that he made a kids movie. Most audiences thought he was too good. He didn't want to do this. They thought that he was a little too into the kid idea of doing. They were too in the idea that this would be kids, and that the Harry Potter story felt like more. It was becoming more adult at this point, with the fourth book already out by this point. But that's kind of like I said, that's kind of the point of these movies. Like, they're supposed to start off as kids' adventures, and as the series goes forward, they become more adult, they become more darker. And I had no problem with Chris Columbus directing this at all, because I felt like he was the perfect guy to direct a movie like this. He has a good cast that very much fits the characters, kind of what you'd expect to see from the books. I mean, Daniel Radcliffe is a good choice for Harry Potter. Rupert Grint is a good choice for Ron Weasley. Emma Watson is a good choice for Hermione. And you have a strong cast involved in this movie. John Cleese, Robbie Coltrane, Warwick Davis, Richard Griffiths, Richard Harris, Ian Hart, John Hurd, Alan Rickman, Fiona Shaw, Maggie Smith, Julie Walters. Just an incredible cast in this movie. And you can see from that trailer, the production design of this, it feels like something right out of the book. And I think they did a phenomenal job of handing this to a guy like Columbus who can make this work so well. And it was one of the risky gambles Warner Brothers had at that time. The other one we'll talk about in just a little bit, in a couple of weeks, a couple of days, I should say, because we're going to get to Lord of the Rings later on. That was a bigger gamble for, especially New Line Cinema, but this was a kind of a big gamble as well. I mean, nobody really could have predicted that this was going to launch into what most of these family fantasy films would become in the latter half, for the rest of the 21st century up to this point, because everyone wants to try to get their own Harry Potter-style series, and very few times it worked. The Twilight films were successful, so were the Hunger Games, both at Lionsgate. Other times, not so much. Everyone was trying to create the next Harry Potter franchise, and 9 times out of 10, it didn't really succeed all the time, but when it did, they did something unique and different with it, and we're gonna get more into these as we keep going forward here, because Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone did become the big success that it was, and rightfully so, because it's a really good adaptation of the first book. It's a good introduction to these characters, and it's a good way to show that, hey, this is how this is. We're going to do these stories the way that they were intended to be seen on the big screen. And the next couple of movies would show that these films got better and nearly got better and better with every passing film. I mean, not much more to say about this one, really. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, even if you're not the biggest Harry Potter fan, you're not the biggest fan of the novels, I still think you could find a lot about this movie to really like about it. And I highly recommend it. It's definitely worth the watch. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, a really good movie. And studios had the balls to go up against it. There were 2 studio films in particular, but mostly a limited release, though. But let's talk about some of the other releases that came out on this weekend, because apparently Lionsgate wanted to try to take some of the Harry Potter money away from Warner Brothers, and didn't really succeed all that well with our next film, and that is, of course, The Wash. The second film from DJ Pooh, who also did 3 Strikes, but I also found out he's done a lot for Grand Theft Auto. Like, he's one of the writers and co-producers on Grand Theft Auto. He was on the Boondocks. He did, of course, the Friday movies. He's done a ton of stuff that I was not too familiar with. He was on Freaknik the Musical. This was his second film he made as a filmmaker, and it's basically just a 2000s equivalent to something like Car Wash. I mean, it's literally a knockoff of Car Wash. Like, you have Life of the Car Wash is a place in Los Angeles where anything can and does happen to 2 friends, played by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, trying to earn money to pay their rent. Snoop Dogg is, of course, in here, along with Dr. Dre, Tiny Zeus Lister, George Wallace, Tommy Chong is also in here, Shaquille O'Neal, Pauly Shore, Ludacris. I've never seen this movie, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but judging from the reviews for this, well, then again, this is kind of a stoner movie, and stoner movies can be funny, even though they are very stupid and very silly at times, so I'm not really going to say for certain if this is if that's probably a bad movie or not, because this did not get great reviews. Like, it got, I think it's 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, but then again, sometimes stoner movies can actually be funny, so I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe this has a following that I'm not too aware of, but from the looks of it, it looks like what you think it's going to be. It doesn't look like a movie that's really all that impressive overall, but then again, maybe it is. Maybe it's something that has a cult following to it that I'm not too aware of. If anyone has seen The Wash out there, is it any good? I'd be really curious to see if it is. I mean, I've never really had an interest to check it out, but you never know. Could actually be something funny. But that trailer wasn't really looking that confident, though. But I digress. Let's take a look at the last film that I have seen, and that is Steve Martin in the dark comedy Novocaine. It's always nice to see Steve Martin do movies like this. I mean, this guy has a lot of talent all over the place. He's a great comedian. He can be a great dramatic actor. But he can do movies like this that really elevate a film to another level when he's involved. You have him playing a straight-laced dentist who, because of one innocent lie, finds his tidy, prosperous life transformed into a comic quagmire of illicit sex, illegal drugs, and inexplicable murder in this brilliantly offbeat, bitingly comedic film. This is directed by David Atkins, who, as far as I know, has not directed anything else of noteworthiness since then, but he has written stuff like a Hot Tub Time Machine. I'm trying to see what else he was involved in. I think that's it. I think he just wrote Hot Tub Time Machine after this, and it's a shame because this is a pretty fun movie. I mean, it's great seeing Steve Martin recapturing a little bit of this. I mean, looking at this, you would almost think to yourself that he's kind of an older version of his character from Little Shop of Horrors. I mean, that's kind of hard not to see that at this point while watching this performance. So you have him in there, and you also have a cast that includes Elias Koteas, Scott Conn, Laura Dern, Lynn Thigpen, Helena Bonham Carter. I mean, it's a really good movie, man. It's a really fun black comedy, and it works so well. It works also very well if you just think of Steve Martin as the dentist from Little Shop of Horrors. Because, man, when I saw him in Little Shop of Horrors and I see this movie, it's hard not to think that this is an older version of that character from that movie, man. Because it's just like... And it's Steve Martin giving it his all, man. Like, Steve Martin really does give it his all in movies like this, where he can take it to another level. It wasn't received well by most critics and audiences, but it's one of those dark comedies where it just works because he's there and he has a great cast to work with, and he gets a chance to do whatever he wants to do in this, and it works pretty well for the most part. I mean, I love this movie. Novocaine, it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time, we'll head into Thanksgiving weekend 2001 with 6 movies, including Brad Pitt and Robert Redford in the thriller Spy Game, Martin Lawrence in the comedy Black Knight, another comedy which is surprisingly based off of Casablanca, Out Cold. We also have Sidewalks of New York. We also have In the Bedroom. And lastly, The Devil's Backbone from Guillermo del Toro. So 6 films we'll look at next time around, and we'll do that on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.